Hi, and welcome to another Revel Coach with one of our special guests today. We have Donna Shannon with us, and I'd love to introduce her because she's got a really cool business that in today's market, we all know that landing a job is really, in Donna's words, no laughing matter. So there's fierce competition, harsh HR screening procedures, the evolving recruiter strategies, and just overall, like you have to be smart and tactical and strategic on how you find a job. And there's so many details to it, from your LinkedIn profile to your resume and what's the latest and greatest thing to do. And so we are glad we have her with us, not only because she's going to show us how to do some of that stuff, but also Donna is a stand-up comic. So I thought that was pretty fun. So Donna, can you indulge us with maybe a joke before we start?
A joke. I'm so surprised. Nobody ever asked me to do that. So anyways, one of the things about me is like, I don't look my age, right? Yeah. Just go ahead and guess. How old do you think I am?
Alison.
Oh boy. Let's just say 40.
Oh, nice. I mean, you're totally full of it, but you're well trained. No, I'm actually 52 years old. So I got a special birthday card in mail a couple of years ago from AARP. And it's like nothing makes you feel as old as like getting that special letter from the AARP. But you know what? They do need to upgrade their marketing so it's more appropriate for us Gen Xers, right? I think it needs to be AARP Extreme. Get your righteous discounts at Denny's and IHOP. Free tribal tattoo with every membership. Act now and get your compilation CD of the best of Limp Bizkit and Sugar Ray, which really isn't that much of an incentive because I already have that in my car. But
I would agree. The first time you get an AARP, so I'm not 50 yet. I'm 50 next month. Mm-hmm. But I did already get my card, and I will say I was like, I felt it was an error. Like I thought for sure they didn't mean to send that to me. It can't be that soon.
Yeah, I mean, I'm so old. I bought a watch. Do you know what it does? It tells me the time. That's it. It doesn't count my steps. It doesn't check my email. It doesn't
play music
on. It just tells me the time. And here's the real kicker: is I bought it with my JCPenney's gold card.
That's why you got the AARP card.
Yeah, I think so. It was probably the trigger.
Oh, well, thank you, Donna. I would love to, you have a podcast that has your jokes. So we definitely want to kind of give a shout out to the name of that one and remind us again what it is.
Sure. So my comedy podcast, if you want to laugh and are not offended by foul words, it's Donna Shannon's Coyote Tales. That is on all the major platforms. So you can find it anywhere and everywhere. And, but we're here to talk about business, right?
We are. So tell us, what do you do? Can you give us a little more insight to your business and your work?
Sure thing. So my company is the Personal Touch Career Services. And what we do is we help people get jobs they love in about half the time of a usual job search while earning up to 20% more salary. So the next big question is, how do we do that? There's two main services that we offer. So number one is we do all the job search writing. So resumes, LinkedIn profiles, cover letters, all the rest of those things you might need to market yourself. The other half is career coaching. And this is where we work with people in both one-on-one or in small group settings and really take them through the entire job search process, from establishing your goals to improving your interview skills or tracking down hiring managers, the strategic networking, all those pieces that people are not really taught in how to do with their job searches. And even if like you got any support way back in college, I mean, you're competing with thousands of others in your graduating class and the career services managed by 5 people. And it's, I hate to say this, but the colleges oftentimes teach archaic strategies, not always what's current in the market today. And that's where we are. We're very proactive and we're constantly updating our strategies to fit the modern job market.
That is really good because it is changing. I mean, in the past 2 years, the market has just done a weird little bubble backflip thing, and everything we knew before 2020 seems to have shifted.
Mm-hmm.
So what are some of the biggest changes in the workplace, in the hiring?
So two things really is, number one, the computerized screening process is still there. And a lot of people don't realize how harsh that can be. There was an article in the Wall Street Journal that went out in September of last year that Harvard Business School did a study, and most Fortune group, companies are still using these applicant tracking systems, also known as an ATS, to screen out candidates, even though it catches very many qualified applicants. And the worst part of it is most executives and CEOs know that these systems are screening out qualified people, but they don't know what else to use to, deal with, you've got a deluge of candidates. How do you actually sort through this and get to the people who are going to be qualified for the job? You have to rely on these screening computers. And then their biggest weakness is they always are reacting to keywords. And this is where I like to point out it requires a mix of both smart and stupid keywords. So a smart keyword is anything that relates to your actual job. So if you're in, for example, accounting, this might be things like a financial close or P&Ls and, creating all those documents. And then stupid keywords are things like excellent communication skills and team player, all these things we know don't mean very much. But if they're in the job posting and they don't appear in your resume, the computers could kick you out and say you're not qualified.
So how long should a resume be? Sorry. Can you just have a very long resume or is there an inappropriate length?
Kind of depends on your experience level. So the rule of the one-page resume doesn't apply anymore. And it hasn't applied in well over 10, 20 years. Unless you're like an entry-level person, then of course a one-page resume is going to fit. So most of the time you're going to need a two-page resume to not only capture all these keywords, but to also highlight your achievements and then talk about your story and explain why you're passionate about what you do, because that's the other half of it, right? It's like your resume is a mix of science and art. Mm-hmm. In a lot of ways, it's kind of like poetry, because you have to make sure every word has impact within there. But poetry is also the hardest form of writing to do. At least I think so.
As a poet, I will agree with you there. But my question is it possible to determine what keywords they have just by looking at their job description?
Actually, yes, it is. But this is the thing most people don't realize, because they are smart. So they're going, I'm not going to put the stupid things in here because I'm not going to write excellent communication skills, because you can read my resume and see how well written it is and understand that I know how to communicate. Mm-hmm. But that's not how computers think. Because computers are like, I must see the word, because they're not smart enough to judge the quality of your writing. Mm-hmm. So one of the things I actually teach in my classes, and I write about it in my book, is we created a map to understand how to determine what is what in these job postings. So I'll give you a quick one. Like if you look in the qualifications, a lot of times we'll take those short keyword phrases in the qualifications themselves. Well, that directly relates to your skills section on your resume. Mm-hmm. So if you're needing to do like a fast tweak or something to submit your resume for a specific job, just compare your qualifications in the job posting to your skills on the resume. And then once you get down to a science and learn to look at the other things, I mean, you can easily get a resume tweak done in 30 or 40 minutes. That's the goal.
That's great. And then you were mentioning, so Alison and I, we work with some college students, like athletic teams, helping with our career planning and, just really like some basic leveraging the team's network of family members and contacts that they have, even though they're in different majors and things like that. But we always just say, don't talk to strangers. Like, the hiring manager, somebody knows the best person for you to hire. But, it's a what you were saying, there's the strategic networking part.
Mhm.
And our thought was, especially for like the college kids, like applying into that black hole, if they don't know the hiring manager, they really are like kind of a dime a dozen. So we're feeling like, really work your network, your broader network more. But is applying into the, like, as you're talking through the, sorry, this is a long-winded way to get to the question. As you're talking through the keywords and adjusting the keywords, I mean, does that often work also in the sense of like, just, if you are looking for a job, like make sure you do custom your resume and apply to a few different places because you could get through that shoot.
So I always encourage a two-prong attack. And that means number one, you have to apply through HR to prove that we're good boys and girls and can follow instructions. That's what that's about. Then the other half is all about tracking down those hiring managers and getting in touch with them. So your network is not just the people you know and the people they know. If you only rely on an existing network to get your jobs, what you end up with is a career that just happens, meaning there's no strategic implication on where you want to go with your professional life. And I'll talk to people, most of our clients are mid-career and above, and they'll come to us and they've been working for 10, 15, 20 years. And they're like, I'm not sure what I want to do, but I've only done these things in the past because I had this friend who had a job at this company over here. So I went and did that. And then I had another friend who was like in plastics and they turned me on to this job. And then I got a job in healthcare. There's like no rhyme or reason to it because all they did was popcorn around. And when you also, what happens is number one, it might not be part of your big passions and what you love to do. But number two, when you have a career that just happens, your salary also gets depressed because you're not playing to your strengths. You're not looking for ways to increase that overall salary, nor are you doing comparisons with what's being paid in the markets these days. Just real quick on this is like with the Great Resignation and so many people kind of walking off their jobs and, it's a very hot job market. Salaries are finally going up to keep pace not only with inflation, but to attract a talent. So if all you're doing is getting a job based on friends and family, how can you be sure that you're getting the maximum value that you're worth in the market if you're not doing that strategic side of things?
And that's where you get that 20%, higher salary and things like that.
Yeah.
So you mentioned a book. What's the name of the book? And then is a lot of this information in there too?
Absolutely. So my book is called Get a Job Without Going Crazy.
Love it.
I know most job seekers go too late.
Yeah, I'm already crazy. That's why we're talking.
Exactly. And yeah, I have exercises to take you through this entire process. And I do offer a 60-day job search program where we take people from establishing their goals all the way through their interview skills and salary negotiations. And, every step of our process is outlined in the book. So you could think of it as like the textbook for our 60-day program. And you can pick up the book and you can do it all on your own, or you can engage with a coach and get some expert guidance too.
That's wonderful. So the 60-day program, I think I have an echo. Is that Alison?
Is it me?
I don't know. The 60-day program, do you do that is it like starts at a certain time, or can you kind of go through it through like online modules and things like that? Tell us more about that.
Sure. So the 60-day program, the group programs do have set start dates. So our next one is going to be starting on March 29th, 2022. But we also do an individual group coaching. A lot of times when we're working with executives or people who are in more sensitive situations, they want to work with a coach one-on-one because they don't want to share confidential information, or they just want a more private approach. So we are able to do that as well. I did just relaunch my website today, and some of my best stuff is already available as classes on the website. So number one is LinkedIn Secrets for job seekers. And the second class is Ace the Interview Without Going Crazy. So those are wonderful video-based classes. They're lots of fun. Obviously, I have some humor involved in that. So it's not going to be like a dry, boring, oh my God, do this on LinkedIn, kind of thing.
Donna, since you mentioned LinkedIn, can you give us some of the secrets?
Sure. So these secrets I'm going to share are going to be good not just for job seekers, but for entrepreneurs or anybody who's wanting to expand their reach in LinkedIn overall. So the very first one is keywords on LinkedIn, especially your LinkedIn profile, work differently than on your resume. So on your resume, we have to have things that screen you in or screen you out, right? If you don't have enough of those magic keywords, you get cut by the computers. On LinkedIn, your keywords work like SEO or search engine optimization. So it's exactly how your website would be found by Google or any of those other things when you pop up in searches. So this means throughout your entire LinkedIn profile, from your headline and your about summary statement into your experience and obviously the skills, every single one of those areas needs to be keyword optimized. Now I don't care about stupid keywords anymore. Nobody's going to hire you off of LinkedIn because you have excellent communication skills. They don't care. But they will engage with you as either a job seeker or as like an entrepreneur when you've got those high value keywords being repeated in a natural manner along with their variations. So even if you like go and read through my summary, you'll see stuff on there like resumes, resume writing, job search coaching, interviews, salary negotiating, because all of those are potential keywords somebody might use on LinkedIn to find somebody like myself. So that's one of the big things right there. And especially pay good attention to your headline, because when your name and face and everything shows up in a search list, so if I'm looking for like an example, a vice president of organizational development or a COO in a specific area, I'm going to, as a recruiter, throw those terms into the search engines. And then all I get is to see in a list of people's pictures, headlines, and maybe the first few titles of their jobs. If that headline is not like a compelling brand statement that's keyword optimized, I don't have incentive to click on your profile to see more about you. And this
So what is,
yeah, especially true for business owners too.
what does yours say? I'm just curious.
So mine talks about how I'm a career coach, salary negotiations expert, resume and LinkedIn expert, and then stand-up comic. And my brand promise in there is because finding a job is no laughing matter.
That works. That's work. I'm going to go copy yours and apply it to my own keywords. And
well, that works great if you're a career coach.
Right. But yeah, I'm thinking I could probably pick out the words that are that I don't need and exchange them for the ones I do need.
There you go.
So how long have you been in this career coaching space?
So I've actually been doing this quite some time. So I actually started all of this teaching job searching classes in 2004. And the reason why I got involved in that is my own background's in human resources and recruiting. So I was primarily the corporate recruiter. So that's the person who posts all the jobs, collects all the applicants, cuts all the applicants, you know, that mean, nasty gatekeeper who never let your stuff get through to the hiring manager. That's what I did. So the reason why I started these classes is because I was tired of having to cut qualified applicants who just didn't understand how the process worked. So everything kind of grew from there. And in 2009, I was generating so much materials for the class because I was still doing my job full time. I came to that point of, okay, I either need to just sit down and write the book, or I need to go all in and just concentrate on my career and you know, quit this silly nonsense and just do that, grow up or whatever. Yeah, who wants to grow up, right? And I really sat and I thought about it. And the thing I loved most about what I was doing is in those classes and suddenly seeing people's faces light up when they understood that it was not them personally that was wrong. It was their job searching strategies. So it didn't mean that they were too old or overqualified or underqualified or didn't have the right talents. Because, after going on a job search for months and months and getting zero results, or at best a rejection notice, is very disheartening. And it really shatters people's egos and self-esteem. But when you point out, it's like, look, the reason why you got cut is because you didn't say excellent communication skills in your resume, or you listed your degree as a BS instead of a Bachelor of Science, and the computers kicked you out for that. BS indeed, right? But then they go, oh my God, I can do this. And they would get like hope. I could see them just like instant recognition and hope reignite in their eyes in these classes. And I'm like, oh yeah, that's it. That's my passion. I'm all in. I wrote the book. I did the job part-time while I launched my business more seriously. And then in 2011, I stepped off the corporate cliff, and I've been doing my company full-time ever since.
Well, it sounds like you're doing great. So congratulations on jumping off the cliff, because sometimes there's that moment where you're, should I do this? Should I not do this? And when you get used to the corporate income, that's a big cliff to feel like you need to jump off. So congratulations on doing that.
Right. And, that's not a bad plan for anybody out there thinking of launching their own business or feeling out like a more passion-driven career versus with the high-earning one that they've had already. Doing a transition where you're doing something part-time on the side while you're doing your regular day job, or even decreasing hours at your regular day job, is actually a very smart plan for transitions.
Yeah, for sure. So Donna, I'd love to ask a question about the recruiting industry. So I actually was a recruiter as well. So my first career was with a recruiting company. And so I know it doesn't have the best reputation, but it does have a great service. And there's just a common challenge with recruiters receiving so many resumes. You can't keep in touch with everyone. The clients hiring the recruiters to find a special person. But at the same time, to ignore recruiters and recruiters' calls and things like that is also something to consider, like what happens when you get ghosted and you're frustrated with the recruiter. So if you are somebody that's starting a job search, any advice on what to do and not to do with working with recruiters?
All right. And to be clear, we're talking about like the headhunting type recruiters, as opposed to the corporate recruiters who are the ones internal in the company.
If you don't mind, will you explain those differences just for our members? Because I think the recruiting industry gets blanketed without recognizing the difference between a headhunter, a corporate recruiter, a regular, staff augmenter.
Right, absolutely. So your headhunter or outside recruiter, sometimes also known as executive recruiters, depending on what space you're in, those people are salespeople. You have to understand this. This is how they make their money, is when they place someone in a position with a company, they get paid based on a percentage of your starting salary. And that's always paid by the real client, who is the employer, not the job seeker. So if somebody, by the way, is approaching you and saying that they'll get you placed in a position and they want to charge you $5,000, that's not really reputable nor standard in the industry. If you're working with a recruiter, their job is to find the best candidates for their clients, who are the employers. So then as a candidate, that means you are, this is going to sound harsh, sellable meat. You're the product.
It's harsh.
It is a little harsh.
Right.
But you're the product, right?
Yeah.
So by comparison, a corporate recruiter or an inside recruiter is not earning commission. They're paid by salary. They're inside the company. And they're the ones who are going to be oftentimes more strict about, okay, we have to follow our recruiting practices. They use the screening computers to their advantage, or at least they try to. And their thing is they need to be impartial. So the reasons why they won't necessarily connect with you on LinkedIn or acknowledge your messages is because they have to be unbiased when they're going through the candidates. As opposed to sometimes when you're working with like those headhunters, if they've got like a position that they think you're a good fit for, they can be very aggressive in communicating with you or contacting people out of the blue on LinkedIn or stuff like this. But here's the thing, if suddenly the employers say they're not interested in you, you can't get that person on the phone anymore. Because one way I like to think about it is, this kind of goes into like resume reviews too. So there are times when your executive or your headhunter recruiter might ask you to do certain things on your resume. And you might think, oh, well, this recruiter is the expert, so this is how my resume should be for everything. But the truth is, remember your sellable meat. So they are building a menu for the employers, and you're a beautiful T-bone steak, but they want you to trim some fat off to make you look like an even more tasty T-bone steak. But say the employer doesn't want a T-bone steak. Maybe they want a salmon. Well, if they want salmon, all the T-bone steaks are not going to be contacted anymore. And then the recruiter is just very busy trying to nail down all the salmon and make the deal. So it's not necessarily this, it comes across as very harsh and cold, but it's just understanding how the business works. So if all of a sudden they're not contacting you anymore, just touch base with them on a regular basis, because even though you didn't fit on this particular employer, the next employer they may deal with totally wants a T-bone steak and you would be the perfect one. But you just kind of have to be that squeaky wheel that gets the grease, and you need to take on the burden of continuing the communication.
Yeah, I think you're explaining it so well. It's almost like the recruiter that is the looking for the meat is like the recruiter is like the computer, where they really have to fish through and swim through the sea to find the right person. And if it's not the right person, they're just going to kind of put that one aside and keep going. So it's not that they intentionally ghost, but most recruiters talk to, say, 10 people a day. If there's a team of 10, that office may speak to 100 people, in one day. And the next day it's another 100, the next day it's another 100. So they really have to, represent their clients. But I appreciate you sharing that, because I do feel like it's a good source. But if you're really in a place where you want help with your career, I would not advise hanging on to a recruiter. I would hang on more to somebody like Donna, because I feel like you are what people really want, which is like, I need somebody to guide me on how to do this. So I'd love to kind of go back to your business and things like that. So from what I understand, you have a team of people. So you've chosen to hire some specialists with resume writing and have a little more of that white glove service. Can you tell us a little bit more about what that looks like?
Sure thing. So on my team, it's not just me. I don't have a mouse in my pocket. We are a we. And I have 6 staff coaches and writers in addition to myself. And then I do have my own assistant as well. So one thing that's a little bit unusual in this space, if you don't know anything about career coaches or resume writing, you'll see very, very small organizations that are usually like solopreneurs. And they kind of can dive pretty deep into like one specific industry or one specialty. Then you've got like very huge organizations like Top Resume, where you get a very limited approach or contact with your writer. Like you just have to fill out a form online. If you're lucky, you get to speak with somebody for 15, 20 minutes. Hopefully your writer is centered in the United States, because sometimes they outsource these things. But if you're paying $100 for a resume, you're kind of getting what you're paying for in that case. We cost a little bit more, I'll be honest with that. But we do take a personal approach. I mean, that's the whole point of our name, Personal Touch Career Services. So when working with us, and most time people come to us first for the resume writing, and then they'll add on career coaching as well. So with those, just to give you an idea of how our process works, is we start up with a questionnaire. Then our interviews with our clients are like 45 minutes to an hour.
Okay.
We have people send us sample job postings every single time, because we do a fresh keyword analysis for every single client. We're not like just going to a database that was outdated 5 years ago. It's always centered on you and what your specific job targets are. And then of course we do a couple rounds of editing just to make sure we get everything perfect.
That's great.
Well, I would like to say that I am loving this conversation. I feel like I have learned a lot about recruiting, resumes, what I can do with LinkedIn. How can people find out more about you and Personal Touch? Is it Personal Touch Recruiting?
I know it's got this ridiculously long, crazy ass name. So it's personal touch career services.com. Once again, that's personal touch career services.com, or you can just Google it. I'm here in Denver. So if you're looking for where we're located, we do work with people across the country, and we've had some international clients as well, although we definitely specialize in the US market. I'll just put that out there. Also, I'm on LinkedIn. I have about 6,000 followers on LinkedIn. So if you look for Donna Shannon on personal touch career services, got to say it again, it's ridiculously long name, but you can find me there. And of course I have a company page and all the rest of that.
Well, thank you so much for sharing all this information. I know our audience is absolutely going to love it. And to everybody that's watching, make sure you subscribe on YouTube so that you can always see what's happening on RevelCoach Plus and our interviews. Alison Nissen and my sister, Marcy Stoudt. We want to say thank you so much for watching and stopping by. Feel free to connect with us on social at RevelCoach.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks, Donna. This was great.
Mm-hmm.